Hello, this is my awkward third try at tonight's live chat. If anyone is an Instagram expert, do get in touch. Every so often it seems to be that once the guest requests to join and I accept, then we get stuck on the connecting bit. And apparently some people can see the guest and I can't. I can't quite figure out what's happening. But hopefully I'll do the intro for the third time lucky. This is chat number 11 of What Does Nature Mean to You series. I've been having lots of different people hop on to Instagram Live and chat with me, telling me about their memories of nature, what nature means to them. And tonight I'm hopefully being joined, if we can make it work, by Chika, who I studied with earlier this year on a mindfulness and compassion course. So I've got one person watching me so far, Mark, who can watch me try this for the third time and see if it works. The nice thing is if it doesn't, I can always delete this video and it's fine. So Chika is here and watching, requesting to join. View request, go live. Hopefully this will work this time. I'm wondering, because I've switched over onto my data as opposed to Wi-Fi, whether that will help. Yes! Third time
lucky we did it.
You! I was running out of ad libs. Hello, nice to see you.
How are you? Good to see
I'm
you.
all right, thank you. I'm so excited to see you, and I suddenly realised we could end up completely slipping into a catch up and then have to remember we've got people watching.
Definitely. Oh, I don't know what went on then. Just expect the unexpected.
Exactly. I can stay calm for about 3 or 4 tries. And then last week I had the same thing happen with Ellen from Nature as a Human Right. And eventually we kind of gave up and she hosted over on her channel. So that was my plan B.
Right, okay.
But yeah, Chika, really good to see you. Yes, for anyone else watching, Chika and I know each other. I feel like we've known each other in person, but we haven't. It's all been online. No. Studying mindfulness and compassion back in June, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we finished in June. Didn't we start earlier? I've lost all track of time.
Who knows this year? But maybe other than that introduction, I wondered maybe if you could introduce yourself more to people, who you are, what you do, where you do it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Chika Okorafor Aneke, and I've been a teacher for over 24 years, and a school leader, and worked in London, and now find myself in Lagos, Nigeria. And yeah, what a journey it's been. And thank you, Ruth, for asking me to be on and asking me the questions, because I've just had so many memories and so many giggles about nature and just wonderful.
Oh, it's just so nice to reconnect you with a course mate, really, and hoping maybe we can get some of the other people from our course on as well. But
definitely.
Yeah, and you're a teacher, but you're also teaching mindfulness to children.
Yes, sorry, gosh, forgot completely about that. Yes, teaching lots of mindfulness. Although they've been renamed moments of calm, where we are at the moment, and obviously what we're all dealing with worldwide. And so teaching little and big humans mindfulness and mindful learning, which is kind of a mixture of a lot of the work I did as a teacher, and a lot of my time being spent with secondary school children, teaching science, and obviously preparing them for exams, and then working with them on their emotional and well-being, and doing a lot of awareness about mental health, and just really bringing awareness to it, and how important it is. And that was before sort of 2020 happened and lockdown and everything. So it then became sort of quite a big thing, where I am at the moment, and really sort of being able to bring so much awareness to it, to maybe sometimes a stigma being attached to mental health, with the mindfulness. What has been wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I wonder, before we
go into my three questions that I'm asking everyone and have warned you about, whether I could just ask you a question I haven't told you about. I'm just listening to you there, and what you're doing at the moment, and how important that is at any time, let alone as you say, 2020 and the extra challenges that's brought about. I wonder, can you give us a picture of what things are like where you are then? Because I don't know how that's been affecting you over there.
Yeah. Well, obviously, when everybody was in lockdown, we were also in lockdown. And then we came out of lockdown. Obviously, Lagos, where I am, is a mega city, so it's very densely populated. So the numbers were high. We were in lockdown, we came out of lockdown, and then we had issues with protests and things. So we went down into another mini lockdown. At the moment, it's pretty much the same as you know, everywhere. We're kind of still being careful, but we're not under a lockdown at the moment.
Okay. And so your kids are back to school then? And
yes. Some were virtual, still virtual, and then quite a lot more have gone back in person. So my kids have gone back to school in person.
Okay. And the work that you're doing with the mindfulness part, is that now all in person, or is some of that online?
No, it's still virtual. So everything is still virtual for me. Before the lockdown, I had trained with mindfulness in schools. So the plan was to go into schools, and you know, I don't know when I'll get the chance to go back into schools again, because they're not having sort of peripatetic teachers from the outside coming back in anymore. It's just sort of their full-time staff.
Right. So a bit of a change for you, and possibly a pause in the plans, or a change of directions.
Yeah, I mean, because we've been doing so much more online now, and it's that, you know, that can continue. So we'll just wait and see what happens.
Well, fingers crossed. Yes, things shift. Well, let's go to the first question then. Talking about nature, sort of the very opposite to the online, I guess. What is your earliest memory of connecting to nature in some way?
Okay, so I seem to have these memories of my first nursery teacher always having the room full of plants and bringing her pets into school. And I think I've down the line sort of turned into that teacher. We'll talk about that later. But also, I was obviously growing up in London, but my mum was from Devon, so we did actually move back to Devon when I was quite young. So sort of having that freedom of nature, and you know, going out and playing for hours on end, and you know, I can remember going blackberry hunting, the bushes behind my granny's house, and then taking her back all these blackberries, and she'd, you know, cook a pie, and, you know, going off to beaches and farms, and just really most of my time playing was in sort of nature in some way. And, you know, just really when you asked me the question and I was thinking about it, it brought back just how important nature has been to me growing up. And my father was in the Navy, and he was actually based still in Nigeria. So going then on holiday to Nigeria, I became very aware at a young age of sort of the difference in nature from country to country, and, you know, aware of, yes, nature's still the same. You've got the trees and you've got the plants, but they're very different in a different environment, you know, when you travel. So having that awareness of how sort of England and Nigeria were very different but also similar really sort of stands out for me as I was growing up. So, you know, I'd have my pet dog in Devon, and I'd have my pet monkey in Nigeria, you know, and coming back and telling, you know, friends, I think they thought, gosh, she's away with the pixies and fairies. She hasn't gone anywhere, you know, because I'd come back with such stories that really at a young age were looking back on it quite amazing, and really sort of a blessing. And I'm so grateful that I was able to see nature, you know, in a different country, and also experience myself in different places and different environments, and having differing perspectives really sort of helped shape me into the person I am, really. And it's come from the power of nature. You know, also how we have the seasons in England, and then in Nigeria we have just the dry season and the wet season. And you know, there's nothing like a monsoon to make you realize that sort of a rain shower in England is really not, you know, not that bad, when you could have a monsoon and the next minute you're knee high deep in water. And the difference in going to sleep in Devon and hearing, you know, owls, and then going to sleep in Nigeria. And very often my dad would take me to my grand's village, and my grand's village, you know, going to sleep with the sound of the crickets. You know, so I had my gran in Devon, who I'd be blackberry picking and she'd be baking me pie, to my granny in Africa, where we would be cooking over a flame fire and going to bed because there'd be no light when it was dark, you know, and waking up to the crickets and a rooster in the morning. And you know, it was just so much came flooding back that I, you know, you just don't even really, not that you don't remember, but you just never really think about it. So it was amazing. So thank you.
Oh, lovely. Oh, it sounds like so many questions from that. Yeah, it's been interesting actually asking that question. It was a question that I was asked at the beginning of my training, or a question similar, that made me kind of prompt me then to think that this might be one question to use in this series. And it has brought up so many different stories and experiences, and even, as you say, the act of having to have thought and pondered it and reflected upon that and what that brings up. So thank you for sharing that. It did make me think, actually, when you're talking about the seasons, because often in the work I do, you know, we can refer to the seasons and that connection with the land, connection with the seasons, as a kind of a way of accepting the different rhythms of life. And perhaps, you know, as we move into winter, resting and pausing, knowing that spring is coming again. And when we were more connected to the land, even in a very real food and resource way, how that probably taught us, without us necessarily knowing, some of that patience and even mindfulness and awareness of that, which we perhaps lost now as we're in the world of productivity all the time, as opposed to wintering and harvest and spring. But suddenly realizing, and I can't believe I've not really ever thought of this, that obviously everywhere has, or not everywhere, but lots of places will have different seasons and won't necessarily have the 4 seasons. And I'm wondering how that changes or not people's perception or learning or connection to that. There's a question in there somewhere.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think I know where you're going to, because as a teacher and a science teacher, I'm obviously, you know, many years teaching sort of kids about nature, you know, about plants, how they make their food, and about animals and about humans, and, you know, just teaching so much science. And maybe for a lot of kids, it might be the first time that they even really encounter the learning of nature and their understanding of nature. And I remember when I worked in London, we took a group of kiddies to the country, and some of these kids hadn't been out of London, and the sort of awe and wonder that they had of seeing the sea, and others the fear of leaving their natural habitat. You know, so it's that different sort of perspective, even sometimes of being in the same country, but going out of your comfort zone and going to somewhere different. So when I then taught in Nigeria, it was very much teaching a science curriculum that was based on seasons, and adapting it then back, because, you know, obviously the schools here have, or a lot of schools work with the British curriculum, so then adapting it back to dry season and wet season. And not all the children had experience of the seasons, so seeing their sort of awe and wonder about the seasons that we had in the UK. And then later, teachers and children did travel, and they, you know, got back in contact with me as later in life and said, oh, you know, we experienced it, what you had taught us. So it's that kind of, understanding about nature is the same, but very different depending on where you are. And I think teaching things like adaptation in science, we adapt as humans, the same as, animals do. And it's amazing how, you can see that when you slow down. And I think children can really be great teachers to us about being mindful. I think we're all very mindful when we're younger. And so, I often say, I've started mindfulness from day dot. We're very mindful as children. We lose it as we get older and the thinking takes over. So working with children for all my career, it really helped me to be mindful. You can't teach a class of 30 kids and be thinking about anything else apart from the present moment. There is no way. And you certainly can't come in sort of, thinking about what just happened or what's going to happen after. It's all about the now. And during the lockdown, working online with some teachers who are obviously having quite a lot of difficulty at times, having to balance their family life and teaching children. It was very intense online. You got through a lot more than you would in person because you didn't have the distractions, you didn't have the moving around that you had to do. So it was very intense. It was a lot more hard work being online than it was being in the classroom, I think, for a lot of teachers.
Wow. So what did you do to balance that out then, or what self-care did you implement for yourself, but then equally for the students as well, or could you?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's where our course came in. It was absolutely great, and it couldn't have been at a better time to for us to learn about that kindness and compassion. And really sort of, it was a lot of reassurance to everybody, the adults and children, that you can't have it perfect. Nobody was ready for the situation. Do what you need to do to be calm and comfortable. And to be quite honest, as a parent, it was as if, yes, school was there and we did it if we could, but it was a case of quite radical unschooling. The kids took me back to basics. They wanted to cook, they wanted to do creative things, they wanted to be out potting plants. I mean, we have potted the most amazing plants during lockdown. I think I found my niche growing aloe vera. And they just seem to be growing and growing. I've even got my little mini moringa tree growing. So, it's wonderful how they really did teach me, so much. And I think children around the globe taught the adults around them, just about how to be more mindful and, not to worry. I mean, obviously it was such a worrying situation. It is still a worrying situation. You've gone back into lockdown again in the UK. So, and I think second time round, maybe even harder for people to deal with. During lockdown, well, you haven't even asked that question yet. You can ask that question.
It's fine, seamlessly going through. I'll ask my second question. Although it's funny because there was something else that I thought of. Oh, you were talking about adults learning from children, and I think that's incredibly apparent in nature in particular. When kids or most kids of certain ages anyway want to get muddy and get dirty and splash and jump in puddles, and we as adults, or a lot of us, have kind of gone, no, don't do that, get dirty, or it's dangerous, or it's this or that, and you can sometimes see.
I think I was a parent's nightmare in that respect, because their kids would go home looking like they've been pushed or pulled through a bush backwards. I mean, I loved it. It was any excuse to go outside. I mean, I am that eccentric head teacher who's never in her office. I was always outside playing. So if it was raining, get in the mud, if it was dry, roll around in the grass, looking for, animals everywhere. And I think I did get a parent to donate a bath, an old bath, and we filled it up with earth and we planted, and we had a bunny in one of the schools we worked, and we grew the lettuce. And you know, they fed it to the bunny. We were always outside. It was, you know, the outside is anything you can do inside, do it outside. We had so much fun outside. But parents would be, oh, they didn't come to school looking that dirty this morning. I'm like, I know they've had a fantastic day at school. You know, we've had so much fun. And the parents will kind of look at me like, okay, did you not change them? No, I wanted you to see them dirty.
Yeah, it's that shift, isn't it? And yet actually it can be so good for us as adults, as teachers or parents. There was just a comment that said children sometimes are the excuse parents need to reconnect with the natural child, natural world. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, getting us back to our childlike selves and having fun. And so yes, let me ask you that second question that I know you were working towards, which was, what does nature mean to you, and how has that, if it has, changed this year?
Yeah, I think nature's always been my refuge. I always say the beach is my happy place. I have such sort of wonderful childhood memories of being on the beach, you know, growing up in Devon, and always going to the beach at the weekend and being close to the sea and swimming, as well as, you know, farming and going to the farm and horse riding. You know, my mum just kept us busy, you know, and everything that most of the things we did were outside with nature. So definitely sort of, you know, happy memories and refuge, and my way of getting away from things and people. Obviously working in schools is a very intense community, and sometimes, you know, just wanting to be on my own and in nature, it was just so sort of calming and just a refuge for me, and still is. Here in Nigeria, they have wonderful beaches. So, you know, I love to get to the beach when I can. And, you know, just with the schools that I worked, the first school I worked here, we were in the middle of nowhere. They were still building the school, and we had huge grounds, and getting the kids out of classroom and always having a daily walk, because it was a boarding school, and just doing weird and wonderful things outside. I can remember teaching them how to juggle outside, and, you know, just playing lots of different games, and then having a fascination with storms. I loved storms. There's nothing like an African storm, and the lightning and the, you know, the thunder literally makes the house shake, and the, you know, the monsoon rain. It's just phenomenal. The storms here are fascinating, and it's just always just been a, you know, a refuge of mine. And it's as if, as I go through life, things from my youth and you know, hobbies that I've had and things that I've learned and the connection that I've had just keep coming back. And, you know, it's wonderful. I know I do a lot of traveling, and I was in Cuba, and we went for a lovely horse ride through, you know, the sort of nature in Cuba and the greenery in Cuba, and it was wonderful. But my horse got spooked, and my horse decided to bolt, and it literally went hell for leather. Thank God I could ride. The people that I was with were city people, and they really didn't. I said, oh yeah, I'm from the country and I've ridden horses, but they didn't realize I could really ride a horse until they saw what happened. I got to the end. I mean, it seemed like it went on forever, covered in mud, and they were just sort of gobsmacked. Right, you can really ride a horse. And the people who had organized this were so shocked. They just kept giving me grapefruit. And the grapefruit tasted so amazing. To this day, I when people say, oh, you've been to Cuba, I say, yeah, they've got amazing grapefruit. And I don't know whether it's because I had this experience of being on the horse, and it was such a shocking thing. But this grapefruit is really what I remember about Cuba. So when, you know, like I say, these were the things that were coming back to me when you were, you know, you'd said about nature and how I've been giggling about these stories, and, you know, then equating it back to my, you know, to my youth and certain things I'm so grateful for knowing, and how I've used it as an adult. And it's really just been amazing. It really has. And during this lockdown, like I say, we've not been able to get out as much. Where I am, it's obviously very, very much city. There's not a lot of, or there are hardly any parks to really walk around in. We have got a local conservation area, which is great, but that was obviously all locked down. So it was really interesting to notice again how nature changed, and that we were inside, but it was as if nature came back to claim what we had always, or what we had taken over for a period of time. So I noticed a lot more birds. So me and the kids would watch a vacant plot of land that turned into a kind of like a mini pond, really. And we had the most amazing ducks, black and red ducks. I don't know what species of ducks they were, but ducks coming back, in different types of birds, a lot of dragonflies and butterflies, and hearing the frogs as well when we'd had a rainstorm. So it was as if nature really came to us, and we had our potted plants, and we would get outside when we could. And as a family as well, because obviously a lot of my family are still in the UK, we set up a WhatsApp group, and most of our sharing of pictures was about different things in nature. You know, my mum taking the dog for a walk, my sister on her terrace, and her young daughter who we sent caterpillars to that turned into butterflies. And she got visited by the parakeets, some parakeets, and actually the other day 8 of them. And we used to have a parrot, so that reminded the kids of their parrot. And you know, it was just all about nature, the pictures we were showing, and the, you know, the funny stories we would tell. So that's how we really got through lockdown.
Wow. Oh, it sounds lovely. I mean, obviously lockdown was challenging, but just hearing you talk like that just sounds like a real reconnecting to nature, to yourselves, and to the whole family as well, really. Just that nature being that force between it all. Which I guess could lead me seamlessly to the third question then. So smooth at it now.
An expert.
What would your advice be to others? I mean, especially if they are like here back in lockdown, moving into winter, if that's where they are, or just any sort of general advice on connecting to nature. And I guess I'd add on to that specifically, yes, of course, to everyone, but maybe particularly for teachers and children and parents, because of what you've shared already.
Yeah. I mean, you know, nature is just such a wonderful learning opportunity, and to really not judge nature. You know, sometimes we say, oh, you know, the winter, it's cold, and oh, we don't like the winter, but to maybe leave our judgments out of the, you know, the different seasons. I know we do here, where we're sort of like, oh, the dry season, you know, it plays havoc with your hair and your skin, and you get colds and coughs. But to actually embrace the changes that happen throughout the year in different seasons. And you know, it brings back that mindfulness, being non-judgmental, in the beginner's mind, you know, see everything like as if you've seen it for the first time, and you know, play and then play some more. And it's difficult if you are in lockdown, but there are ways that you can still connect, you know, little ways. It may be just going outside and feeling the breeze on your face, and the coolness of the air, or the warmth of the air, and the sun, and all different ways of connecting. And you know, to take the time to breathe, and to maybe breathe outside in nature in some way, is you know, is a wonderful way of getting a moment of calm, and a moment of mindfulness. And yeah, I mean, nature is our teacher. It really is, just like our children are, and they are really quite naturally deeply connected with nature. And if we can just all kind of keep going back to it, I think we'll find it helps in so many different ways.
I love that. Yeah, children. Yeah, there was something else we were talking about. I mean, one of the other talks, and about children's natural inclination to just go out there, or in one of the books I read recently, I was Lucy Jones, the author that I spoke to the other day, I'm talking about, you know, babies will probably naturally just grab some dirt and shove it in their mouths, and
Yeah.
and actually there's some health benefits to that. Of course, there's probably a balance, but again, that natural, as you say, that natural inclination, that natural mindfulness, that natural being present, and how much we could learn from that, as opposed to trying to contain it and bring in all our rules and safety fears.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's, you know, the judgment, I always used to think that beaches were for summer. And when my mum then lived 5 minutes from a beach, seeing it in the winter, I realized it's even more beautiful in the winter when nobody is around and it's stormy and wavy, and you know, it's windy, and it's yeah. So that really shifted my judgments on, you know, places in different seasons. That just get out in it and you'll see the beauty of it. It's the same for snow now. Whenever I see snow, which is really rarely, it's amazing. I love it. Whereas before I'd kind of be inside, I'm not going out in the snow. But now it's sort of, you know, dive in headlong and do my angels, snow angels. Just a bit of coolness, please.
Well, I suppose we're sort of getting towards the end of this, because I'm trying to sort of keep them roughly about sort of 20-30 minutes long, although I've actually no idea how long we've been on, because it just feels like a good old catch up. But before we try and wind it up, is there anything else that you would like to add, tell people about, anything you want to share as you were kind of pondering these questions, or anything you want to share more about what you do, and especially what you're doing right now?
Yeah, well, hopefully, like I say, trying to bring a little bit of calm to as many people as I can. And yeah, it's just about sort of, if you're not one to really connect with nature, or you haven't maybe had a strong connection, to try to, maybe being in lockdown, it's made us realize just how much we should appreciate being able to go outside freely, and to really, yeah, find your brave and find your fun in being outside, and with your children as well. I know it's been really difficult, and it's really been that reconnection of everybody and everything during this time. And there's a lot of fun to be had. We just have to all see it through the eyes of a child.
I love that. That's going to be my quote. Chika, thank you so much. How can people how can people follow you, what you're doing, or get in touch, or even participate in things that you're doing, or plug yourself?
You can follow us at Learnomic, and get in touch with us through there, and we'll let you know what we're up to. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll post this and tag you in it. But thank you, Chika. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And so
lovely
nice to see you again. All right, take care.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye. Oh, big thanks to Chika. It's so nice to see her again. Yeah, we both studied over, during lockdown, I think it was May and June, with Mindfulness UK, studying their Integrating Mindfulness and Compassion course, which was an absolutely fantastic course if anyone is interested. And yeah, some great learning, and it sounds like both Chika and certainly I've been able to integrate a lot of that work into the work that I've been doing. So yes, big thank you again to Chika. And tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. UK time, I will be chatting to John Doyle, who is a naturalist, a photographer, and also a therapist. So he'll be sharing his thoughts on what nature means to him. And then I've got a few more the rest of this week. I'm not doing one on Thursday evening because I'm off to the Women in Nature's book club, which is something that's worth checking out as well. But thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow night.